Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we are looking at True Believers, King in Black, Black Knight #1. This is a 2021 reprint of Avengers number 48 from 1963. Now, in issue 47, we learned that Captain America has left the Avengers and that the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver have been abducted. Also, we get a glimpse of a Dr. Dane Whitman. Now, this issue picks up where that one left off, with Magneto holding Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. Quicksilver is able to signal the Avengers. Nobody picks up right away, so they take a little time to figure out what's going on. There's this subplot with Giant Man and Wasp stopping this guy from cheating at roulette, and Hercules is a bit out of sorts because he's up trying to figure out who damaged the Promethean flame, so he's not going to be in this issue. It's just a one-page subplot. And then we learned that Dr. Dane Whitman is actually at the Garrett Castle where Magneto is hiding out. Now, Dr. Whitman is actually the reason Magneto is back on Earth, because he created this space communication device that allowed Magneto to somehow ride the magnetic waves back to the castle. We also learned that in issue 47, Iron Man and the Black Knight faced off once again, and unfortunately, it led to the demise of the then Black Knight, who is Dane Whitman's uncle. So Nathan Garrett passed on, realizing that he regretted a life of crime, and he passed on all his knowledge and equipment to Dane and made him promise to use the equipment only for good. So Dane Whitman manages to breed another flying horse, a Pegasus, that is white and unlike the original black one that was ridden by Nathan Garrett. So he's improved the armor and equipment, and he sets out to find the Avengers to tell them the location of Magneto. The Avengers don't understand that this is a different person, and Hawkeye impulsively attacks him, and that leads to an entire confrontation between them and a bit of a falling out. So it does end on a cliffhanger, leading into issue 49, where the Avengers have to go save two of their own, and it looks like the Black Knight may not be part of that. So it was an interesting introduction of Dane Whitman, but with his science background and attempts to improve the armor and become a hero, seemed to be slightly dashed, but it was mostly due to mistakes. Overall, it was a pretty good story. There's some very, very dated dialogue in this. But this issue was written by Roy Thomas with art by George Suka, cover by George Suka, and lettered by Artie Simek. Overall, I think the art does look a little rigid. It is kind of Silver Age where some background stuff looks kind of ignored, but the artist is talented. It's just not a style I particularly like. It's a little too generic looking at times, and the horse looks really good, but overall their faces look a little too 60s animation for me, and I think that does hurt the book. But overall, it was a pretty fun story. I'd recommend it if you get it really cheap, but it's not really worth tracking down at the full price that you would pay for the back issue. I would get the True Believers one rather than try and track down the original unless you're a huge fan of this era, because the story and plot are very basic and simple. It is becoming more complex as the series goes, which was pretty common with the Silver Age progressing more toward the Copper Age. So it's a little ahead of its time for a lot of books, but I just really didn't find this one that compelling, partly because it is middle story and partly because the art is a little wonky. At times there's really detailed backgrounds, and at other times there's almost nothing. So I think it's an interesting story, but a really poor introduction for Dane, especially as he eventually becomes a leader of the Avengers. I like his costume redesign though. I think that's really good, but overall it wasn't that memorable of a story for me. I think the art suffered a little bit, and I think the story had too many pop culture references and methods of speaking that are very outdated. The idioms in here are not used anymore and are a bit corny and silly at this point, so I think younger readers may have a little difficulty connecting with the characters, but overall it is aimed at younger readers, so if it gets kids interested in the Avengers, I'd be all for it. But I think it's really going to appeal more toward fans of this era and younger readers. I don't know how much enjoyment older people are going to get out of this, so it's got some pros and cons. It's just not for me. That's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel out in other ways, links are in the description to various support methods, including the Streamlabs. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.